It's February, and it's been quite some time since our last GPU pricing update video, so there's quite a lot to talk about, including looking at the latest GPUs and where they are against their launch prices, along with older models and kind of where they are now compared to where they were just a few months back. But before we get into that, here's a quick word from this video sponsor. Hello mate, you alright? Yeah, just got all the bits from my banging new gaming PC. Just got to put it together. It's going to be so much better than yours. Oh, right. What did you get then? The latest Intel 12th gen processor, a feature patched motherboard, and 32 gig of DDR4 memory. See? Miles ahead of yours. You realise that board needs DDR5 memory, don't you? Don't tell me you went and bought the wrong stuff. DDR4 is so 2014. I can't believe you was that stupid. What? No, you're joking. What should I get then? For me, I'd be looking at Corsair's newest Vengeance DDR5 kits, or if you're wanting that all-important RGB, then go for the Dominator Platinum RGB. Oh, you are a lifesaver, thanks, but where can I find out more? By clicking the link in the description below, of course. And you call me the stupid one. So for anyone who's seen one of our pricing update videos before, you'll know what it's all about. But if you're new here, the quick rundown when looking at this time last year compared to now is that crypto had a boom, GPU prices went up, the pandemic didn't help, the cost of everything went up, and Nvidia got a little bit greedy with their launch prices of the new 40 series cards, while AMD released two cards that were similar in price, but not in performance. I think that pretty much sums it up. Now, the saving grace, I guess, is that things have started to correct themselves, and that's good news for you guys and girls as consumers. Not only is stock plentiful, at least in comparison to what we saw last year, but by having stock and demand being lower due to the crypto bubble popping among other things, the price is actually starting to fall, which then puts the consumer back in charge again. And that honestly is the best place to be, because that's kind of what gives you the best deals. Now, before we jump straight into how much each model is, it's worth noting that, as always, we try to focus on the cheapest SKU of each individual GPU, because we're all about finding the cheapest deal. You know, reference cards, or at least reference pricing. Though it is safe to say that if you are after a somewhat, let's say, more exotic card, like an Asus Strix, or Gigabyte Aorus Extreme, or even an MSI Supreme X variant, then they will demand a premium over an entry-level SKU. So keep that in mind, as sometimes when looking at a top tier 3070 Ti, for instance, you may actually be better off spending that little bit of extra cash for a more entry-level RTX 3080. Now, if you are faced with those types of buying decisions and it's all a bit of a nightmare for you, then head on over to our Discord, where we'll be more than happy to kind of help guide you in the right direction, especially as some of the deals that we will discuss today may be time sensitive, so you may need to act fast. Also, if you appreciate the huge amount of work that me and the rest of the team put into these pricing videos, then you can help support what we do over on Patreon, where you'll get tons of super special perks like behind the scenes content, access to all of our testing data, monthly live Q&A sessions, which we only started doing last month, and much, much more. The link for all that good stuff is down below. Also, for simplicity, we have timestamped this video, so whether you're in the US or the UK, or if you're looking at AMD cards or Nvidia, you'll be able to fast forward to the exact GPU that you're after. So kicking things off with the UK market, and Nvidia starting with the GT 1030, which has seen some small cuts in the price, now down to £80.99, which for the last few months was hovering closer to £90. So it's in a small discount, but due to the age of the card, I don't see it coming down much more, if at all. The GTX 1050 Ti, which is still more than ample for 1080p gaming, has also seen the lowest price it's been since June of last year, now at £159.98 for an MSI low profile model, making it perfect for a starter GPU for those wanting to get into the world of PC gaming for the very first time. Moving up to the GTX 1650, and you have some choices, with Scan stocking the MSI Ventus X SoC for £174.98, while Amazon have the Palette Storm X OC card for £175. Personally, I'd be going for the MSI, as it does have a twin fan cooler on it and is the better card for around the same price. The better choice here will be the GTX 1650 Super, which is slightly more powerful and is coming in cheaper as well at £172.58. Again, for an MSI Ventus X SoC model, so you know you're getting a reliable brand for a fairly decent price in the grand scheme of things. The GTX 1660 Super is a great card for those wanting to dabble in fast-paced 1080p gaming, and at £227.99 for a Gigabyte dual fan card from Scan, Again, it is the cheapest it's been for over a year now, though it's still over its original launch price, so may have a little more wiggle room, but retailers will start to phase out stock of the 1660 Supers very soon. So once it's gone, it's gone. The GTX 1660 Ti will set you back a little more at $286.99, which has gone up compared to pricing from last year, and is still sitting above its original launch price, though you will get a tough Evo OC model, which would normally set you back a little bit more anyway. So compared to its launch price of $259.99, it's not a bad deal, but considering when the card originally launched, I would have liked to have seen it a little lower at this point in time. If you're wanting to get into the world of ray tracing, then Amazon have a great deal on the EVGA RTX 2060 SC Gaming with next day delivery for £254.11, which is lower than its launch price and is still a great card for 1080 and 1440p gaming with those gorgeous ray trace reflections, and is the better buy than the 1660 Ti that I just mentioned. Moving up to something newer, and the RTX 3050 Verto model from PNY is available for $279.98, which you could look at being the better deal compared to the RTX 2060, though the ray tracing performance isn't groundbreaking, as it is Nvidia's most entry-level ray tracing based GPU, and is around £40 more expensive than when it launched back in January 2022. For the RTX 3060, it's seen a small discount, making it the cheapest in a year, though still coming in over its MSRP launch price. Though for £340, you do get a Zotac Twin Edge OC card with a free Marvel's Midnight Suns code, which is worth about £50. Another one coming with a free copy of that game is the Gigabyte RTX 3060 Ti Windforce OC at £440, which is quite a jump up from the 3060, as well as the launch price of £369. So while it is the cheapest it's been in a year, it's not exactly showing great value at this point. Finding a deal on the RTX 3070 was extremally difficult, as most retailers are still listing them in excess of £600, though CCL did have this C-grade Gigabyte Eagle OC model at £468. But with only one left, which by the time this video comes out it will likely be gone. But it just goes to show that the occasional deal can be had if you're patient and happy waiting before you press that buy button, along with having a card that's not new. There isn't what I'd exactly call a deal on the RTX 3070 Ti, with the cheapest one we found being the Asus Tough Gaming V2 OC at £629, which isn't exactly cheap considering the card launched for £529, though being a higher tier model would always demand a premium, but there should be a lot more room for this to come down in price, as better alternatives are available for a little more money. A prime example of that is the RTX 3080 Gaming OC 10GB from CCL at £622, again with only one left in stock, but at £26 under its launch price it's still a great card, and the Gaming OC model generally commands a slight premium, but you will have to be quick. Sadly, there's no 12GB models around, though that would normally demand quite a bit more money anyway, and the better option would generally be the RTX 3080 Ti. Though at £990 for the cheapest model from Palette, it's not exactly an amazing deal, though it is cheaper than its launch price. But with the launch of the 40 series, I would have liked to have seen it at least sub 900 at this point. So personally, I'd hold out a little bit longer if that's what you're looking for. Now, I was in two minds about even featuring the RTX 3090, as they've gone completely in the wrong direction, considering you could pick one up for £1,100 back in August of last year, while the cheapest now is the Gaming OC model for a smidge under £1,300. It doesn't offer any resemblance of value for money, and at that price, personally, it should be avoided completely. The 3090 Ti is exactly the same, as every month last year saw a small discount from its original launch price, while now, likely due to supply issues, the cheapest it's available for is over £1,500, which considering the cost of the 40 series, it just makes it a bit of a non-deal at this price point. Speaking of the 40 series, I wasn't expecting there to be many deals, as this card is still so new, but you are able to pick up the Inno3D X3 model at overclockers for the original launch price of £799. Though if you've seen any of our content on the 4070 Ti, you'll know that we, even at that price, think it's overpriced by about £100. For the RTX 4080, you do have some choice with three models all priced at £1,200, which is around £70 cheaper than its launch price, which is a good sign. And as there are few models in stock, it could be a sign that they aren't shifting off the shelves, and could see further price drops or sales deals coming up soon. Now, as someone who has the GameRock Omni Black model, out of the three, I would definitely recommend it, though the style may put some people off. Then lastly for Nvidia in the UK, we have the flagship RTX 4090, which considering its £1,649 price point when it launched, it's still sitting about 6% above where it should be. And even then, while it's unparalleled in performance, especially in ray tracing, it's still a lot of money to be slapping down on a GPU. Moving over to Team Red and kicking things off with the 6500 XT, which is still sitting at the same price it's been since August 2022. Though for that money you are getting an Asus Dual OC model, so a trusted brand with good reliability. If you're wanting a bit more power, then for £244 you could get the RX 6600 Fighter from PowerColor, which is around £50 cheaper than its launch price, and the cheapest it's been in a year. Though other models are available for about another £20 or so, giving you choice, but at a slightly higher cost. The RX 6600 XT sees another £100 in comparison, which still leaves it slightly over its launch price of £329. Though you will get a gaming OC model for that price, which is a great card for performance, cooling and overall design. The better option, however, would be to go for the RX 6650 XT from XFX for £308, as it offers slightly better performance but comes in quite a bit cheaper and is the cheapest it's been since it launched at £389. And for that money, you're getting a pretty stealthy and good performing XFX card with a twin fan cooler. For a little more money, you can move up to the RX 6700, which is kind of an unsung GPU as it never had an official launch or MSRP launch price. You can pick up the likes of the XFX Swift 309 for £343 right now, which for those wanting to play at 1440p with decent frame rates, honestly is quite hard to beat. Another one that's hard to beat right now is the PowerColor Fighter RX 6700 XT, which is now at £378, which puts it around 10% under its original launch price, showing that there are slightly better deals on mid-range AMD cards compared to their Nvidia counterparts. A 6750 XT, however, isn't as competitive based on the extra few percent of performance that you get with the Sapphire Pulse model coming in at $448.99, which is lower than its launch price and the cheapest it's been since, but the 6700 XT offers much better value for money in comparison. Another card that seems to offer a little bit better value for money is the PowerColor Fighter RX 6800 at $499, which is the cheapest it's been since launch and is £30 cheaper than its original launch price. Though when AMD released the 7800 series, or 7800 series, this should continue to drop in price a little bit more. Moving up to the 6800 XT, and the cheapest model we could find is the PowerColor Red Dragon, which is one of their top spec models, though it does come in at $599, which is £100 more than the 6800 non-XT, and is the same price that it launched for, and again will be superseded by the 7800 series in the near future. Moving towards the 6000 series flagship, and the cheapest 6900 XT right now is the Aorus Master model, which is one of their higher end models and does represent some pretty solid value for money against its £1,099 price tag. Though the 7900 series now thrown into the mix does water that value for money price point down just a little bit. The RX 6950 XT is definitely the better choice if wanting a card from the 6900 series, as there are a ton of models that come in cheaper, with the most affordable being the XFX Merc 319 card for £769, which is the cheapest it's been in the last year and a dramatic price cut from its original launch price of over £1,000. Though again, the 7900 series should offer better value overall. That could be argued as the case for the 7900 XT, like this XFX Merc 310 card at £859, which is £40 under its launch price. But as per our launch day coverage, that still puts it around £60 too expensive based on the performance you get. Though it is a custom card, but we should see prices fall as lower end 7000 series models join the stack. Finally, wrapping up UK prices, the cheapest AMD flagship 7900 XTX right now is the Sapphire reference card at £1,049, which is the price it launched for, and that seems that brands, disties and even retailers just maybe aren't quite ready to slash any prices just yet, as it's still the newest card on the market from Team Red. So moving over to the other side of the pond and the US, where straight away things are off to a bad start, with the entry-level GT 1030 now being sold at $110, which is a whopping 109% over its $79 MSRP launch price. It's not like you're getting amazing value at that price point, and an APU would actually treat you better at this point anyway. Moving up the stack to the GTX 1050 Ti, and it's another one that is miles away from where it should be, with this MSI low profile model coming in 42% over its MSRP. Though it is cheaper than where it's been for the last couple of months, so at least it's heading in the right direction, but it's still a way off from what I consider good value for money. The GTX 1650 is very similar, with a somewhat inflated price point of $209 compared to its $149 launch price quite a few years ago, and has now actually seen prices going back up from where they were just a couple of months ago, which could indicate stock issues and retailers trying to get the most they can for a card that is now technically end of line. The GTX 1650 Super demands another $80 on top of that, and again, just doesn't exactly represent decent value for money. Though for that money, you do get an MSI Ventus XSoC dual fan card, so not all is lost, but I wouldn't want to be spending any more than about $150 on one, to be honest. At last, we see something that's not terrible in terms of pricing with the Gigabyte GTX 1660 OC with twin Windforce cooler coming in at $196, which is the lowest price it's been in over a year, and is the first card in the stack coming in under MSRP, though is sold by a third party on the Newegg marketplace, so keep that in mind. It seems that is the only one in the stack that is semi-reasonable as we go back to hugely inflated prices with the MSI GTX 1660 Super Gaming X, which would always demand a premium, but at $302 compared to its $229 launch price, it's a no from me, and you'd be better off waiting for it to drop in price. The GTX 1660 Ti is the better option at $231, which is a nice discount from both its MSRP launch price and where it's been for the last year. And for a Gigabyte OC dual Windforce card too, out of all of the 16 series, this definitely seems to be the best from a value for money perspective. Now, if you're wanting a bit more grunt and ray tracing functionality, the cheapest RTX 2060 right now is the MSI Ventus for $298, which is inflated based on the ability of getting an RTX 2060 for around $230 back in August of last year. So it doesn't exactly feel like much of a deal, especially considering how old the card is now, but I fear there's not going to be many of these left. With the RTX 2070, I wasn't even sure if I was going to include it, but for laughs, here you go. You can currently get an RTX 2070 for the amazing price of $749. Clearly there's an issue of supply here, though refurbs can be had for around half of that price on Newegg right now, if you don't mind having one for a much more palatable price, but again, it's not brand new. Moving up to the 30 series and kicking things off with the RTX 3050, which is now sitting at $289, which is $40 over MSRP, but is the cheapest it's been since launch. Though based on that, there is still quite a lot of wiggle room the longer that the stock sits around. So on that one, yeah, I'd probably wait. For the beefier RTX 3060, the cheapest right now is the MSI Ventus card at $339, which is still $10 more expensive than its launch price, which considering how old it is, isn't, let's say, the best value for money, but I can't foresee it changing much, if at all, in the near future anyway. The RTX 3060 Ti is in a very similar situation, coming in $10 over its original launch price for a Zotac Twin Edge OC model. Again, it may come down slightly to bring it back in line with its MSRP, which considering there is plenty of stock, is not entirely out of the question. The RTX 3070 is still inflated quite heavily at $559 for a Gigabyte Gaming OC, where the card originally launched for $499. Though being a gaming OC, you would be expected to pay a slight premium over that $499 price tag in the first place. Though the 40 series may help push that down once the RTX 4070 launches. If wanting a bit more power, the RTX 3070 Ti is at $649 for the Asus TUF-OC V2, though it is the same price it was back in August, so they're either selling comfortably for that price or stock has been sitting around for a while, and again may see some cuts in the near future, especially as the card has now been replaced by the 4070 Ti. The RTX 3080 10GB is a somewhat laughable $920, which is around 31% over its original launch price, and a big step up from the $759 price point that it was sitting at for most of last year. Personally, I'd be avoiding this at all costs at that current price. I'd use the same avoidance tactics on the RTX 3080 12GB, which is sitting at $1299 for the cheapest model we could find, which is a huge step up in price as last year you could get this same card for $799, which was a great deal at the time, whereas now I can't see these selling at all. The RTX 3080 Ti is at a more attractive $1,129, which is a small discount compared to its launch price of $1,200, but is still too rich for me considering the launch of the 40 series, which is much more powerful in comparison, though all depends on the price, which we will look at shortly. The RTX 3090 is $50 under its MSRP, but is over $250 more expensive than what these cards were sitting at last year, and at that price should again be avoided, as it's clear to see they do have the ability to drop lower in the right market conditions. It's the same story for the 3090 Ti, which dropped down to $1,300 at points last year, while now it's back up to a somewhat ridiculous $1,699. Even if it is for the Zotac Amp Extreme card, it just doesn't represent value for money. The RTX 4070 Ti is overpriced at its launch $799 price tag, so at $829 for an MSI Ventus 3X OC card, it's just not worth entertaining until it drops to below $750 in my opinion. The cheapest RTX 4080 is now at $1,269, which is above its recommended retail price of $1,200, though is for a gaming OC model which does demand a slight premium. So it's not bad per se, but is more than what I'd want to pay for an RTX 4080. Then lastly, there's the MSI RTX 4090 Gaming X Trio, which again would demand a premium over the reference launch price, but $200 more is a big nope from me, and I'd only be looking to pay around $50 more for it over a reference card. So moving over to AMD and starting things off with the RX 6500 XT, where you'll be able to pick up a Power Color ITX card for $149, which is actually a pretty decent price overall, and is $50 cheaper than its launch price. If you're looking to get into gaming on a budget, you can't really go wrong with this card at that price. If you're wanting more power, there is a deal on the RX 6600s, like the ASRock card at $229, which is $100 under MSRP, and the lowest we've seen for, well, pretty much over a year. So definitely snap this up if that's what you're after. The 6600 XT is also coming in at a discounted price of $274 for an ASRock Challenger D model, which again is the lowest price it's been since launch and is an amazing GPU for that price. Another card that is offering great value is the RX 6650 XT, which offers a slight boost of around 5% or so compared to the 6600 XT, for another 5% in price. Again, it's an ASRock Challenger D model, so maybe consumers aren't buying these models, or Newegg have tons of stock sitting around, which could mean they could drop even lower. Moving up to the RX 6700, and it's also at a pretty reasonable price of $329 for an XFX Speedster Swift 309 model, which is perfect for high refresh 1080p gaming or 1440p gaming, though should see some movement as AMD unveil lower end 7000 series cards in the very near future. For another $30, the 6700 XT ASRock Challenger D card is available, again further showing us that ASRock are either being very aggressive with their pricing or no one is buying their cards compared to other brands. At $409, another ASRock card is available, this time for the 6750 XT, which is well below its MSRP price, though the 6700 XT is the better value buy considering the performance difference between these two models. If looking at higher resolution gaming, the RX 6800 is now at its lowest price since launch at $479 for, you guessed it, another ASRock card, though this time it's the Phantom Gaming D, which style-wise isn't for everyone, but it's a pretty great deal overall. The 6800 XT is now dropped to $599, which is the cheapest it's been since launching at $649, and for an XFX Merc 319 model, though could see it drop slightly more, especially as it's sold directly by XFX on Newegg, basically potentially cutting out the middleman. The 6900 XT has gone back up in price based on last year's prices, now at $779, whereas last year saw it drop as low as $719. Though again, for that money you do get an XFX Swift 319 card, which gives great cooling performance while being perfect for high resolution gaming as well. The better option is the ASRock OC Formula top tier 6950 XT at $699, which is well below any price it's been since launch, and will likely stay at that price for quite some time, especially considering the high-end nature of it being a custom AIB card. With the 7900 XT still being the newest range from AMD, I wasn't expecting to see much movement, if any, but it has seen a cool $20 shaved off its launch price, though I'd personally want to see it sub $800 to even entertain it at this point in its cycle. Then lastly, the 7900 XTX Gaming Trio is sitting $100 above MSRP, though would cost more even at launch as it is a custom AIB card. So really that comes down to personal choice if you want to spend that little bit extra right now. So lots of cards, lots of prices, and lots to think about. I think it's clear to see that AMD have stronger discounts in the US than the UK, though some deals are still to be had regardless, while Nvidia are, for the most part, still above where I'd like them to personally be. Though again, some deals are available in both the UK and the US. The market, well, it's in a tricky place right now, with a lot of countries gearing up for a recession. And I'm sure with that in mind, a lot of gamers are going to be sitting, waiting for the right deal to come along. Sadly, I kind of feel that at this point of the year, there isn't that much choice. If you have a particular model SKU in mind, it just makes things a little bit difficult. Though for some GPUs, there is a lot more choice than kind of what there was last year. And that will put pressure on brands to be a bit more aggressive with their pricing, so that consumers buy their card over their direct competitors. Speculating to next month, I think we potentially could see some more movement, but depending on stock levels, that could go either way. So it's still a little bit of a gamble, but it is nice to see some cards sitting, and in some cases quite dramatically, under their original launch prices. Now, I would advise you checking out our content on individual GPUs to get an idea as to performance levels on each card in both graphics as well as cooling performance. Though again, I'd be quick in making your decision as to what to buy, as even during our initial research of making this video, cards were going out of stock during filming. So what I'm trying to say is they are selling, which means you may miss out. Now, I also think that as newer, lower tier cards launch from both AMD and Nvidia, so talking RTX 4070 and then 7800 series, we will see some of the older generation predecessors drop a little further too. So it may be worth waiting. But again, that may cost you overall, as I simply don't have a crystal ball to tell you what the future holds. So there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, a like and a sub to the channel would be amazing. And if you love what we do and appreciate the huge effort that we put into these types of videos and want to get access to a ton of cool features, including monthly live Q&A sessions, exclusive behind the scenes content, and much more, then the link for all that is down below. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.